So I'm going to show you the scene this morning at 9:45 in Annecy, southeastern France, after a Syrian asylum seeker went on a sickening rampage in a playground, stabbing 4 toddlers, including a 3-year-old British girl. Just a warning, some viewers may find these images distressing. Now, that absolute scumbag is a 31-year-old who has been identified as Abdelmash H. He had moments earlier screamed in the name of Jesus Christ as he repeatedly knifed a baby sitting in his pram as his helpless mother screamed in terror. 4 children, aged between 22 months and 3 years, including the British girl and 2 adults, ended up seriously injured in the frenzied stabbing. 3 are said to be in a life-threatening condition. Now, recently divorced Abdelmash was only in France after living in Sweden, where his ex-wife said he was unable to gain citizenship despite being granted asylum, stating he was a Syrian Christian a decade ago. And that time, he was convicted for illegally claiming benefits in Sweden before travelling to France to apply for asylum there. He could do that legally, of course, because refugees have free movement within the European Union. Just 4 days ago, his request is believed to have been rejected because of his refugee status in Sweden. And then the attack. An attack which raises so many questions about the threat posed by undocumented young males who fled to the continent and now make up the vast majority of those illegally crossing the channel in an illegal invasion of our southern border. And before the blood was even dry on the ground of that playground, the British establishment, aided and abetted by Sly News, insisted that any such talk must be far right. So to prove the point, listen to Fawaz Gorges, a professor of international relations at the LSE.
My fear is that regardless of what, the investigation shows, the fact that the suspect is a Syrian refugee and an asylum seeker will likely be used a great deal by the far right in France, given how, the cultural wars and the question of refugees.
That's his worry today? That was his worry in the hours after 4 toddlers were stabbed by an asylum seeker? Now, I would argue there is absolutely nothing far right about wanting to ensure that babies are not brutally stabbed by folk who aren't legally meant to be in the country. I want to remind you what Peter Wallace told me. Now, he's the father of Tommy Roberts, who we see there, who was brutally murdered by the illegal migrant on the right in Bournemouth. This is what he said about those who claim that these sorts of discussions around these tragedies are inappropriate.
Ask anyone who pleads compassion, if it's your child, your son, your daughter, your mother, your father is in the same situation, you wouldn't think the same. Anything you want, we'll put you in schools or here, there and everywhere. We'll give you a life that you don't have to pay for because you're an asylum seeker. And that's wrong. 9 times out of 10, they'll find out the info after the event, not before the event. Otherwise, someone else is going to die.
The left is deeply misguided when they think it's wrong to try and stop illegal immigration into our country. We must protect our borders and stop the boats to keep our children safe.